Okay. Long short portfolio allows gross exposure of 100 percentage. What do you think? Like, मतलब पहले अगर तुम मुझे ये देखा था तो मुझे ये wrong लगा था, because I was thinking about 130 upon 30 as long short. But this is long short का एक strategy which is called as long extension. Okay, so like long short जब जब होता है ना कि as a teacher मैंने long short मतलब यही आता था. But this in the textbook is called as long extension. Okay, and in general, long stock could be any long and any short. For example, it could be like 80 long and not necessarily 20 short. Right? It could be anything, 80 long and something like 30 short. If 80 long and 30 short, इसका मतलब है the net position would be 80 minus 30, which is 50, and gross would be 80 plus 30, 110. So in this case, gross 100 नहीं जा रहा है. But what if I take it like long 70 and short 30? So net would be 70 minus 30, that would be 40, and gross would be 70 plus 30, 100. So allows, matlab, it's not necessary that there will be always a gross exposure of 100. If I do long 50 and short 50, which is basically called as a market neutral fund, if the betas are one, by the way, or if the betas are equal, because market neutral mein we look at betas also. So यहाँ पे if I look at the net exposure, 50 minus 50, that will be 0. But a gross exposure 50 plus 50 would be 100. Okay, so like the market neutral funds, they could have the gross exposure of 100. So this statement one was right, and you have to give an explanation like which kind of long short portfolio could have. You have to write something like 60-40, and you have to write net would be 60 minus 40, and gross would be 60 plus 40. So that you know, I mean, so that the examiner knows that you know the stuff. Okay, but something like long extension 120 upon 20, then net would come to 100, 120 minus 20. But gross will go above 100, 120 plus 20. So for long extension वाले केस में it is not possible, but for normal long short, it is long short है ना. Schweizer's कहाँ गया long short? Yeah, so normal long shot में you can see like 80-30 भी है. Any long any short is possible. So 80-20 हुआ तो 80 plus 20 would be 100. So gross exposure will come to 100 in that case. And these are the two extensions of that. One is long extension and one is market neutral. And market neutral में हमेशा see आप you can see 200 long है and 150 short है. But 200 long ka beta is 0.9, giving you 180, and 150 into 1.2 will giving you 180. So it's not that this and this would be like having the same value if their betas are different. Okay, so in general, long short could be any long and any short. So there is possibility that it could add up to 100, like in terms of the gross. So you have to give an example to say why A is possible to be correct. Okay. And B, long only portfolio generally allows for greater investment capacity than other approaches. They did not say flexibility. By the way, अगर flexibility बोलते थे ये statement would have been wrong. Capacity is more for the long only because short के लिए you need to borrow the share and then you need to sell the share, and borrowing capacity is limited because there are less lend I mean the number of lenders are lesser. So that is what is the main problem of limitation or of capacity of short selling कि आप कितना short sell कर सकते हो, that is limited because you have to borrow and sell. So the number of shares available to borrow becomes a limitations. Okay, and it is there in the Schweizers actually. मतलब मुझे लगा ये डिफिकल्ट है, बट आई जस्ट सॉ द स्वीडर्स. ओके, सेट बाय द लिक्विडिटी. सो ये लॉन्ग का है कि लॉन्ग का, एंड यहाँ पे क्या था कि दे वर लार्ज कैप्स आर लिक्विड. सो लॉन्ग ओनली में जब आपको बाय करना है, लार्ज कैप्स आर लिक्विड, सो इट बिकम्स इजी टू बाय. बट कैपेसिटी ऑफ शॉर्ट इज लिमिटेड बाय द अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ सिक्योरिटीज टू बोरो. So that is the main problem, which are lesser in number. Okay, so that's the reason they mentioned particularly for large cap funds that focus on long only capacity. Okay, so it was there in the Schweizer. So from that question, I'll call it like a easy question. This was there in the LOS P3 point H. Okay, so both statements were right. I copy the answer, but I think both statements were right. कौन सा था ये? क्वेश्चन नंबर क्या था ये? 14.
14.
Yeah, both statements were right. Okay, let's see what how they are given it. अच्छा, 100 भी पॉसिबल है, बट इन शॉर्ट कैसे हो ना फिर अगर जीरो बोल रहे हो तो? आई डोंट एग्री विद 100 कैसे, मतलब तो शॉर्ट कैसे किया? तो 100 मतलब लॉन्ग ही हुआ ना फिर। ये आई एग्री, 50 लॉन्ग एंड 50 शॉर्ट. So there is long and short also. So 50 long plus 50 short that becomes 100. And net किया तो 50 minus 50 becomes 0. But इसको तुम long short कैसे बोलोगे? Zero short मतलब no short only. ना, so it will be long only in that case. And statement is correct because offers get converting. ये मेरा मार्क्स कटेगा क्योंकि मैंने एक्सप्रेशन में ये नहीं बोला था कि लार्ज कैप्स आर लिक्विड. Have they mentioned that? No. But मैंने ये बोला था कि borrowing of share is going to be difficult. So that's the reason short selling will have a limited capacity. No effective capacity constraints. There are capacity constraints because of illiquidity, but because large caps are liquid, so buying them will not be issue. Okay, श्वेतस में पॉइंट मेंशन किया था लिक्विडिटी वाला. The long only is limited by liquidity. अगर ये small caps है, small caps are illiquid, so long only will have a issue of buying. If especially if you are a big fund. Okay, if you are going to invest a huge amount of money in small caps ka illiquidity is going to be a capacity. Reason if this point is clear to you. मैंने अभी जो बोला कि if I'm a big fund, huge kind of multi kind of a fund and I specialize in small caps, तो मैं small caps में इन्वेस्ट कर दे रहा हूँ तो वहां पे illiquidity है, so that's gonna be my capacity. I cannot invest in micro small cap companies because of illiquidity, so that becomes my capacity constraint. But here I was investing into large cap companies which are liquid and hence the capacity constraint was lesser. But short selling will require me to borrow and number of shares available for borrow was lesser. In general will be lesser. Okay, let me check some of your answers. Murtaza and Zeni. Zeni का आंसर पहले चेक कर दो. जेनी का एक भी आंसर आज चेक नहीं किया था. जेनी, तुमने जो पहले लिखा था ना वो कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. लॉन्ग एंड
मतलब
शॉर्ट एक्सपोजर शुड सम अप टू 100. क्यों शुड सम अप टू 100?
हाँ, वो एक्चुअली लाइक आई रियलाइज आपने जब बोला कि शुड, इट्स लाइक अ मे बी
It
सिचुएशन, आई
could.
थॉट इट वाज लाइक
It could
कंपलसरी
sum
थिंग.
up to 100. Okay,
या.
and जो तुमने एग्जाम्पल लिखा ना, that saves you. Because of that example, you are gonna get 2 out on 2. Okay, so because of this properly you are writing the example. ऊपर लिखा लिखने की जरूरत नहीं थी. Okay,
ओके.
but luckily you have written the example properly and because of that you are getting the marks. Full marks. Okay. Statement 2. There are no short selling provisions in long only portfolio. The subsequent constraint of short selling would. नहीं यार. No. I mean 0 out of 2 for the explanation. So you get the marks 2 out of 2 for selecting the right answer, 2 out of 2 for statement 1, but 0 out of 2 for the explanation. Did you get that? There are
यस
no
सर.
short selling provisions in long only. मतलब you have to
नो, आई एम
mention
जस्ट
short.
गिविंग एन एग्जांपल ऑफ अ कंस्ट्रेंट बेसिकली.
But why? Why short selling is a constraint? There are no short selling provisions. की जगह मैं, like, let me use a similar word, constraint. There are no short selling constraints in a long only one. But what are the short selling constraints?
ओके.
And does the short subsequent constraints of short वही तो चाहिए ना? What are the constraints of short selling? That you have to borrow the share and then sell it. And that borrowing of the share. See, when you're buying the share, there are a lot of shares available to buy. But when you're short selling, you have to borrow the shares. And there are very few lenders who are available in the market from whom you can borrow the share. And if you can't borrow the share, you can't do the short selling. And then apart from that, you can also mention about the parts of the regulation. So there will be regulations which are going to be having restrictions on the short selling. कि आपको short selling उसी दिन cover करना पड़ेगा. So ये वाला point भी है which is not there in the long only. But short selling has two capacity problems. One is which is what is like major problem कि अगर regulation नहीं है तो अभी भी ये problem है कि the number of lenders of the share from whom you can borrow and do the short selling are lesser, and that becomes an incapacity. And apart from that, the regulator could also ask you to deposit more margin if you're doing short selling. So that becomes another capacity constraint. Clear why I'm cutting your marks for the statement too, because you're not mentioned
Yes,
what are
sir.
those. Okay, एक और किसी का करे चेक. मुर्तजा का ये दिख रहा है मुझे आंसर, किसी का दिखा नहीं. मुर्तजा अनम्यूट प्लीज. ये एक्चुअली इसने लिखा बट इसका कुछ पॉइंट नहीं था. एकदम ना 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 मुर्तजा क्लियर ना. इसका 1 आउट ऑफ 2 भी मैं मुश्किल से दे सकता हूँ. बिकॉज तुमने सिर्फ फॉर्मूला लिखा, तुमने उसका एक्सप्रेशन के बारे में कुछ लिखा ही नहीं है.
Okay. Okay.
Are you
Understood,
getting my
sir.
point? This is just a formula for gross exposure, long exposure weight plus वो मतलब absolute value of short exposure. But ignoring negative weight short it. But 100 कैसे? You have to explain this how it is good to 100. तो ये mention नहीं है. So actually not even
With
1 out
the
of 2.
example
Max to
which was
max.
there in the previous.
Sorry.
I have to give that example which was there in the
Yeah.
previous answer.
70-30, 50-50, 60-40. You have to give that example.
Okay,
Actually,
sir.
statement 2 is incorrect. You lose his mark there.
I
Long,
was thinking in
short.
that sense that we can
You're
have
talking about
funds left.
flexibility. This is a flexibility. So this gives you more kind of flexibility that reduces your constraints. This gives you more kind of क्या बोलते हैं इसको, flexibility to invest. You are able to express your negative opinion on some companies which long only won't allow you to. In the long only, if you believe that some company is doing bad, you can just avoid that. But in the short selling, you can actually do a short selling of that. So this is basically क्या बोले उसको, एक वर्ड है फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी या क्या वर्ड है इसमें, एडवांटेज मेंशन किया है उसको. I'm not able to recreate that word. Greater ability to express the negative ideas. This is not a capacity, this is a flexibility that you have, which was not there when you were doing long only. Clear?
Okay, sir.
So 0 out of 2 for the wrong answer. 0.5 out of 2 for the statement 1 and 0 out of 2 for the statement 2 explanation. So unfortunately, you lose mark over at least because you wrote that statement one का ये इसके लिए I will give you 0.5 to 1 out of 6. Again, this could help you when you are very close to the minimum passing score in the exam. So to get a push that you know about this. But just that finally could not get it, but at least you knew it, so they could give you a kind of a push if you are on the borderline. So I would always recommend that कि लिखो मतलब I don't know उसने क्यों लिखा, but I'm happy उसने लिखा so that in case he's on the borderline, he gets a benefit. Otherwise, how will the
Okay, sir.
examiner will know? Understand? There could be like 100 guys on the borderline and they want to pass 30 guys. How would they know कि किसको pass करना है? So such kind of things give a kind of clarity कि Murtaza has idea, so he could be given a benefit of doubt. All right, so answer was both statements were right. Answer was C.